Today we are going to change the concentric safe cylinder on a 2008 Nissan Altima. So I have this initial setup. This is my engine support bar which I got from Harbor Freight, and it is supposed to, the label is supposed to face the front of the car, so it's in a straight line. Make sure it's in straight line. And then my plan is to hook the transmission from this hook, and then attach the engine here, and then I'll try to support it from the bottom with a jack, and then open the transmission, and then change the concentric safe cylinder, which is connected through this pipe. Next step is I'll remove the tires. So I have my jacks underneath the car, so on both the sides. Then I'll remove the tires, and then we'll remove the brake caliper and then the axle on both sides, and then remove the transmission mount, and then remove all the bolts which are connected to the transmission bell housing, and then open the transmission and rest it on the subframe. So these lug nuts are 21 mm, and then I remove the pin, and this axle nut is a 32 mm. After that we'll remove the brake caliper and then the steering knuckle, these bolts, and then we can remove the axle disconnect the axle from the transmission. Just in there. So this caliper was connected with 14 mm bolts here, one, and this second here, and then to remove this, and there's one more here. These are 21 mm, so I'll have to remove that, and then this rotor, this brake assembly and the rotor will come out, and then I can remove the axle. This is the driver's side, and I'm having a difficult time removing these bolts which hold the brake caliper and the brake assembly. So I went ahead and removed the bolts for the steering knuckle. These were 22 mm, and I'm thinking of just keeping the brake rotor on the knuckle, and then removing the axle from here. So on the driver's side, there are two bolts, one here and the second one is here. So after this, this C clamp which is holding the axle will come out, and then this will slide out of the transmission. And I'll probably be draining the fluid before removing the axle, so keep a watch on that. This is the front of the car, and T55, that is the size to remove the drain plug for the transmission fluid. So it goes here, and then I'm planning to put a pan here and collect the fluid and then reuse it. So these are not 14 but 12. So I had a long extension like this, so I had to put two together, and then I was able to unbolt them. So both of them came out, and then it looks like this. This is the passenger side drive axle. So after the C clamp is removed, it's just sitting there. If you pull it out, it's going to come out. It's not connected anymore. That's what we'll try to do. So yeah, it's coming out. This is the driver side of the axle, which I removed. That's the rotor. Those are the two bolts. These are 21 mm, which were here. And then I also removed these two bolts, which were 22 mm. And when I removed these, I was able to remove the rotor as well as the brake assembly. And I hung the caliper here with a cord. And now I'll pry the axle from the transmission. The oil is already out, and then we can move to removing the bolts from the transmission. With some wiggling and pulling, I was able to remove the driver shaft axle. I used this and I put it behind the axle like this, and I use this as leverage. This steering tie rod, and this is steering assembly, I think, steering rod. And then I went the other way so that I don't destroy the axle, the seal. And with some pulling and then tugging, I was able to remove the axle. I'm trying to create some space. There are two 14mm bolts, two 40mm bolts here, and this is the gear shifter. It's connected here to the axle, to the transmission bell housing. So there are two bolts. I'll remove that and then move this back. And I'm trying to connect this chain and this hook so I can lower the transmission. There are a few more connectors here. Some one is here, and this is for the acceleration. So I'll remove this, and this. And there's one more here. This is for the reverse, park and reverse. Here is the setup. So make sure when you spin this, it's not hitting the other rod which you have. And then here's the setup. So make sure it's not slipping out of this hook which we have on the transmission. And then we can start. This is the transmission mount. We can remove this, and then there are some 10 bolts around the transmission which you can remove, and then slide the transmission out and then rest it on the subframe. And then there's enough room for you to put your hands and then remove the slave cylinder and then replace it. I started removing the bolts which goes from the engine to the transmission. So these are 5. Here is one. It's next to the exhaust pipe. 1, 2, 3. There's one here, 4. And there's one behind this, which is an 18. 5. Probably somewhere there. And I also removed this cap which is on the engine, and these are held by 10 mm bolts. These are 16, all of them. this very tight space, so I had to use a this. All these are of different sizes, so I have drawn a diagram so I know where it goes. So I've marked them. This is 1, 2, 5, 3 and 4. And I'll put them in these and then put the diagram along with the bolts in a Ziploc. I've removed this ground cable. It was held by 12 mm, and then I removed a bolt, starter bolt. This is a 18 mm. I've removed this. And then I have removed the second one, starter bolt. And I'll remove the starter, and these are again 18 mm bolts. So at the bottom there were 5. This is 6. There's one here. 7. And then 2 on the starter bolt, 8, 9. And I don't know why I'm missing this bolt. So there's a total of 10. If you have it, remove that, otherwise we only have 9 bolts. So there's a small bolt on this. It's an 8 mm. So once I remove this, the wire which goes to the starter, that will come out, and then I can pull this out. I can pull the starter out. There are 2 more bolts holding the starter. There's one here, and then one here. This is a 12, and I think even this is a 12. So once you remove this, there's this bigger wire which is on the starter that will come out, and then this can slide out. Next, I removed these 2 13 mm bolts, and this was connected to this, the accelerator rod. And I also removed this. One of them is for reverse, and one of them is for parking light. So remove these 2 sensors. Now I'll remove this bolt, and then drop the transmission. This is the pattern for the bolts for 2.5 liter engine, and these were the 5 bolts which I removed: D, E, D, B, and then we'll remove these from the top. One bolt here which I missed. Again, it's a 16, so I have my ratchet on it, and there's one here, and there's one next to the starter. Which was here. Looks like I can't remove the transmission because I need to remove the mount completely. So there are 3 bolts, 16 mm, 1, 2, and 3. So I'll remove this, and let's see if I have to even remove this bracket which is holding the transmission to the body of the car. With that mount removed, now I'm able to move the transmission. I'm able to wiggle the transmission. I think I'll be able to slide it out now. So I removed this mount. It was held by these 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, and this one here 4. So now it's very clear, everything is clear from the transmission. We can easily slide it. I'm also trying to remove this. These shorter bolts came from here, and then this longer bolt was here. These are again 16 mm. There's one more bolt on the side which I missed. That's why this is not coming out. Once I remove that, this should come out. The fourth one, which I was talking about, and once removed, the transmission looks like this. I have so much room to remove the transmission, so I think I should be good. I already cracked it, but I thought removing these extra stuff will make it very easy for sliding it out and then installing it back in. Finally, we got it open, and when I checked, the slave cylinder is leaking, and then there's fluid here, so probably I'll have to replace it. There was not enough room for the transmission to come out, so I had to remove these bolts for the subframe. These were 21, so I removed one at the back, somewhere there, and this, and this. So they look something like these, and you can see there is a lot of room here between the body of the car and the subframe. So this is how I have it, and then the slave cylinder, it's held by those two 10 mm bolts. Once I have it installed, then I'll put everything back together.